Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. I'm a retired U.S. Army officer and CEO founder of Cavness HR. At Cavness HR, we provide HR companies with 49 or fewer people by combining a tech platform with an HR business partner. Cavness HR is hosting Cavness HR Seattle's Got Tech on July 30th as part of Seattle Tech Week. We're going to have 16 tech startups doing demos of what they built. Think of it as a tech trade show. Cavness HR Seattle Got Tech and the Jason Cavness Experience is sponsored by Century Computing. Keeping the technology essential to your business safe and performing optimally can be challenging. For Century Computing, the IT partner of choice for business, you get thoughtful human interaction and innovative professional IT service, no matter the size of your business. Increase your productivity levels and eliminate financial risks with Century Computing's IT, cybersecurity, AI consulting, cloud consulting, and business automation services. For more info, just click on the QR codes on the screen. Our guest today is actually one of the judges for my tech competition coming up. Sierra, thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It might be too much fucking fun.
There's no such thing on this show, right?
Yeah. So I always start with like a softball question. Tell us like how you take care of yourself, or what you do for fun, or what your hobbies are.
Ooh, for fun. I love to cook. I'm a bit of a foodie. Some people ask me how I got into cooking. It's because I like to eat, and I kind of grew up in a family that's like, if you like to cook, you should like to eat, like to cook kind of thing. So I work on different recipes. I actually have an ambition at some point to open a restaurant, do some soul food, Japanese fusion kind of thing. Love to read. A couple of my kids have picked that up for me, where I've caught them staying up too late with their lights on in their room, still trying to read. I read fiction and nonfiction. There's just so many different things that interest me. So that's something I still really like to do.
So you had a love for cooking since you were a kid, or it just recently happened?
Since I was a kid, and I like to cook and I like to bake.
There's a difference, right?
There is a difference, but one thing that I find is sometimes people will say they prefer one or the other. Mm. You're almost considered like a culinary, like ambidextrous, if you like to do both. But the thing about cooking is there's a lot more room for improv, not so much in baking.
And what's your to-go dish to make?
My to-go dish lately for like the kids and everybody, I've been working on as part of that Japanese soul food menu. I've been trying to test different things out, and I'm not sure if have you ever had Japanese curry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my kids love Japanese curry. They had it with some katsu a while ago and all that, and so I had this idea of like, what if I did like an American style pot roast with the Japanese curry?
Is there a dish out there that you haven't done yet? Because like you might, I'm a good cook, but this might be too much for me. Like what challenge your cooking skills?
So there's a couple dishes that are like that. Paella has proven to be a bit challenging, just to get the rice, broth, seafood, everything just so. I still practice that. More so, I've been practicing my scallop technique. Because that's another one where it's more so technique to make sure they don't end up too rubbery, but have that right sear on them. That's another one. Lobster bisque is a bit tricky.
So big seafoods.
Yeah, a lot of them seafood, but I still try them. I definitely still try them because a lot of them they take practice, especially when you need to time your heat.
And so you cooking like every day for the family, or just when you can?
Here lately, when I can, but it's something that I really enjoy doing. So much so that if I get to a place where I'm kind of in work, meetings, all of that, and I'm like, I need to reset and ground, I'll be like, I haven't cooked something in a while. So I'll go do that.
And how often do you do your reading? That's a daily thing, or when you can also?
Daily. Yeah, daily on the reading. I got a few, I'm reading right now The Book Thief. So that's the fiction pick that I'm reading right now. And then nonfiction, I'm reading This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends, which is around cybersecurity warfare.
And so how do you go about picking the books you read? What's your process for that?
I have quite the queue in Libby, so I use that Libby library app. It has a way for you to tag books that you want to read. And so when I'm in passing, or sometimes in my news feed, there'll be some recommended books. I love listening to different podcasts, and so people will reference different books on podcasts that I like to check out. Ezra Klein, at the end of his podcast, every time he has his guests answer what are 3 books you recommend. So I tend to just find all these titles. I think I'm about up to like 900, low 900s in my Libby.
That would fucking drive me batshit crazy. I ain't gonna lie to you, right? That would drive me batshit crazy. I would literally have to stop. I would have to stop my life and go through 900 books. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, there's actually an article in the New York Times about a gentleman who passed away in Columbus, Ohio, where I moved from. He died in his early 90s, but there's a piece about him in the Times because his kids took his list of like over 3,500 books he read in his lifetime and they digitized it for folks so they can see what he's been reading through the decades.
So do you actually read the actual book, or are you more of an Audible person, or Kindle person, or podcast person?
It depends on the book and like the subject matter. So um, I love podcasts. I know some people like fiction as audiobooks. I tend to prefer reading fiction. But for example, like the audiobook I've been listening to, because I've had to listen to it, is Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. So I tend to find that books that are a bit more contemplative or meditative, those tend to be the ones that really help me with audio. But others I tend to read in digital or print.
And so, are you one type of people like you read a page a day for 600,000 years, or once you start the book, you just go all the way through the book, or something in between?
That also depends on what it is. Like for example, this book, This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends. This one I'm having to work through. So it's like I'll get through the chapter, and now I'm at the beginning of the book where they're talking about this cyber attack that happened in Ukraine in 2017 that was called NotPetya, and how they basically used the primary attack service app and platform across the Ukraine to infiltrate everything. And so I'm reading about the interviews and all of that, and I'm like, well, let me pause and go read about this attack and its aftermath and all of that. So sometimes it's less of a function of I'm going to read this many chapters, and more like let me sure I'm like tracking with you.
So do you prefer like reading like current literature, or like going way back in the day, like the medieval days or Renaissance days, or do you have a preference for what time period it is?
I don't think I have a preference per se. I will say I love Heart of Darkness from Joseph Conrad. It's one of my favorite books. It blows my mind that English is not his first language. And so that one's considered a classic of sorts. I will say, like for classic literature, I have not admittedly been able to get into the Jane Austen, the Dickinsons, the Brontes. I read it for school because I had to read it for school. But for leisure, those don't tend to be my preferences. But like I said, my book list has recommendations. There's a lot of historical fiction in the mix for some things. Another one of my favorite books, All the Light We Cannot See. That's historical fiction. The Book Thief I'm reading right now is historical fiction. So I like to stay open, and I like to kind of challenge myself and give books a try that maybe I wouldn't usually.
So you just said something kind of funny. Like you said, you're reading for leisure. How many people in the world like reading is not leisure? Reading is like that's like running 20 miles a day, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because so I remember when I started reading like as a child. It's one of kind of my earliest memories of like, first of all, feeling like I discovered like a superpower that humans have that I feel like they don't use nearly as much as they could be. But when I was a kid, for whatever reason, my dad had his hangups about me going to kindergarten, what have you. But my family moved from Ohio to Colorado. My dad had been working for United Airlines, and they were going to close the office in Cleveland. And they said to him, hey, your options are Denver, Charlotte, Honolulu, or Chicago. And if you can believe it, in the early 80s, those all had like the same cost of living. But the offer to come to Denver came with being able to wind down Stapleton International Airport and be there for the build out of Denver International Airport. Which still cracks me up, all the conspiracy theories about the tunnels and everything with Denver International, as somebody whose family moved there for that build. But my dad was on the customer service side, and he decided to go to Denver. And so when we're getting all settled and everything, and we finally get in a good place, get a house, I go to first grade, and I barely knew my alphabet. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know anything. And so I had this angel of a teacher named Miss Justin. Rest in peace. Her name is Debbie Justin. And she saw me when she told everybody to go to the book corner. Everybody go pick out a book. We're going to have reading time. And, it was all like C. Jane Run, little books over there. Nothing crazy. And I think maybe the most advanced book over there that day was like Rainbow Fish, something like that, right? And so all the other kids went rushing and going to pick up a book, and I just froze. And she saw me freeze. And, I think a lot, especially as a parent and around other parents and other adults, about how sometimes you can discern that kind of make or break moment and like a child's confidence and how they see the world and how they see the adults around them. And to me, I think that was like such a fragile moment. She recognized with me feeling like embarrassed, feeling frozen, feeling overwhelmed. And she comes over and says, "Hey, would you like some help picking out a book?" And I told her, I was like, "Well, it's just I don't know how to read any of the books over there." And she said, "That's okay. We'll read one together." And of course, by that she meant she was gonna go over there with me with the other kids and read me a book and kind of helping me with sight words and all that when I was 7.